Terry, you have just brought us through from, your birth, your childhood. You shocked me with the childhood part, but we didn't hear that. So we didn't hear that.
I gave that a PG version.
Yes.
Everybody's
but
got a story.
yeah,
Everybody's got a
and
story.
so before the break, you were just fired
Yes.
from this job that I'm gonna be sarcastic that you just loved.
Exactly.
And so it really broke your heart.
Right, definitely.
But okay, so now you're faced with what do I do now? How did you go from filing invoices
Mhm.
to the world of music and entertainment?
Well, I think I've always had a passion for music. I remember, growing up in New York, Frankie Crocker, one of the DJs of WBLS, who's
Yep.
no longer with us, played everything. I mean,
Yes, he did.
he used to play Average White Band, he used to play Rufus, he used to play Barry Manilow. So that really exposed me to a lot of stuff. And I actually took piano lessons before, like around high school and college for a couple of years. And then I was sitting home one day and I was watching the American Music Awards and Prince came on and performed Let's Go Crazy. I think it was Let's Go Crazy. And I just remember watching him and thinking to myself that he's just looked like he's having a ball. And I was like, wow, that's what I want to do. I want to do something where I can have fun and get paid for it.
That's awesome.
I want to be in the music industry. And I had no idea what I wanted to do in the industry. But what I do remember is that years prior, I used to get this magazine off the newsstand when I was going to work in Manhattan called Mix Magazine, which was a magazine dedicated solely to the industry of recording studios.
Wow.
And that was sort of my intro into, you know what, I know I can't sing and do all the performing, but I would love to work in the recording studios and just push the buttons.
Sure.
And I literally just sat down and started, and this is again before the internet, telling my age, and I sat down and just literally started calling every recording studio in Manhattan.
Wow.
Basically saying, listen, I want to come and work for free. And you would think people would jump up and say, okay, cool, come on in, you want to work for free. A lot of them told me don't call back. A lot of them hung up on me. A lot of them laughed. And basically, 2 recording studios told me to come in. And one recording studio up on 92nd Street and Broadway, a gentleman by the name of Raf, R-A-F, I think he was from Germany. He was a studio manager for Evergreen Recording Studio.
Oh.
And he said, well, you can come in, he interviewed me for like 10 minutes and said, okay, you can be a studio manager. You're going to get paid for it. And I worked from 12 in the afternoon to 12 midnight every Sunday.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah. And that opened up a lot of doors to see a lot of things go on.
Well, and let's talk about this. Now, I'm really intrigued about this, the project that you worked on with Heavy D and Public Enemy and MC Light and Dougie Fresh, all names that I grew up with.
Yes.
And so I'm showing my age too. But then how did that all? Because that went from that to then MTV and then basketball games and tell me how all this kind of worked together and how you grew.
You know, I always give praise to God. I think that He's my manager. He puts me in the right places at the right time. The way self-destruction actually happened is that KRS-One came out when he had Boogie Down Productions. He had a song out called "Stop the Violence,"
Right.
and he did a spin-off of "Stop the Violence" called the Stop the Violence self-destruction song, where he sort of put together different top artists, hip-hop artists at the time, and said, let's come together and do a record. And he reached out to Light, who was on First Priority Music, the record label that I was doing PR for at the time. And Nelson George, who is Chris Rock's right-hand man that does a lot of stuff with Chris Rock. And Nelson George is, he co-wrote Bad Here with Chris Rock and CB4. Then there was Ann Carley, who does a lot of stuff with Will Smith, and she was the vice president at the time at Jive Records, which the record was on. And they reached out to Light and said, hey, we want you to be a part of this project. And
so you started in the studio, working for free, and then how did that kind of go into the other things like, you have interviewed people like Kirk Franklin and Will Smith and Bill Cartwright, and I mean, all, you know, so you've kind of crossed over from just music to entertainment to sports. I mean, how does it all come together for you?
A lot of it comes just really saying, I wonder what it would be like. I wonder what it would be like to write for a magazine.
Wow.
And then it's sort of like, even now, 52, I'm like, I wonder what it'd be like to do sign language. That'd be kind of cool. And so with the magazine, I was still living in New York, and I was like, wow, it would be kind of, and listen, I am not a writer. I didn't take no English class. Yeah, that's bad English. I did not. That's bad English right there.
That's okay.
I heard myself,
Most people nowadays don't even
but
recognize
you know, I was when I was at Billboard magazine, it was kind of cool because I was doing the Black Album Black chart, and I was the guy that I would call the top radio stations around the country and the top record stores, wow, and ask them what are your top 10 records, and they would report back to me, and that's how we got the votes for the #1 record in Billboard, #2 record in Billboard, #3 record in Billboard. Yeah. So I was one of the guys. I was me and two other people would call all the stations. I would call WJS in Philly,
Right.
WJLB in Detroit. I still know the call
right.
Wow.
KJLH, which is Stevie Wonder's radio station in LA.
Wow.
And when I sat at my desk, Craig Coleman used to sit behind me. Craig Coleman is now running Atlantic Records.
Wow.
Bill Coleman was the dance editor, and Bill Coleman is now the manager for Jody Watley and Crystal Waters, and he's a very popular DJ in New York.
Wow.
And then Nelson George also used to work at Billboard. So
Wow.
when I was at Billboard, we used to have this wall where record labels used to send just free product.
Yeah.
And they used to come and stack all the albums up against the wall. And Bill said to me one day, Bill Coleman said, hey, why don't you do record reviews for Billboard? And I just wanted to take the records home. I was like, looking for free products. So I was like, sure, I'll write about it. And I started writing little, 2 or 3 paragraphs in the record reviews. And what was cool about working at Billboard was that people used to come and visit because they wanted to give Billboard support. So
Right.
Stacey Ladistor has been there. I met Stacey Ladistor. The Bee Gees came up.
Wow.
Morris Day came. Angela Winbush.
Wow.
Yeah. So just
That's
just
big.
being at Billboard, and that was really like my intro into the politics of the music industry because I started loving the industry so much that when I called a radio station to get their top 10 records, and we started talking, and I was like, what are they playing? Because at one point in America, at one point in time, radio stations used to play different music. What you heard in LA, you didn't hear in New York. What you heard in Detroit, you didn't hear in Chicago.
That's true.
Okay.
Now everything is across the same board.
Right.
Yeah.
But at one point, everybody had a different vibe.
Yeah.
So I would be on the phone saying, yo, we bumping X, Y, Z in New York. And they say in LA, oh, well, we're playing this. And then the managers at Billboard had, you can't be talking about those records. But it was like, I was influencing.
Got you.
So I had to keep, because when I called the station or the record stores, everything was done by numbers. They would get a sheet, Michael Jackson, 117, Mariah Carey, 225, by numbers. So when I said, what's the top 10, they would say 884, 992, 112, and I would just key it in. And that's how the tally would happen.
Wow.
Yeah. But I could remember being at Virgin, was it Virgin, or one label, and I was with a group that I was doing publicity for, and we were at somebody's cubicle, and they had Mariah Carey album Against the Wall. And that was her debut album, and the girl said, oh, she's about to blow up.
Wow.
To blow up, yeah.
Wow.
And we started
You
listening.
see,
That's cool.
and we look at those charts and we just kind of,
Yeah.
You
We
know,
wonder how it happens.
yeah, and it's just, and I'm sure when it comes to music, you and Shane could probably talk for hours because he has
Love
such a
music.
wide.
Oh, very cool, very cool.
I mean, I love music too. I sing, but he knows a lot of music. But let's just talk
Can
about.
I give you a last inside tip?
Yeah.
They no longer do the key in, where they used to send the sheets out to the different labels, record stores. They no longer do that because what they found out what Billboard found out is that record labels were encouraging the reporters, hey, listen, if you report Michael Jackson #1 for the next 5 weeks, we'll remodel your kitchen for you.
Bartering.
What?
Oh, man.
So that's why they brought in SoundScan, because now everything is done by barcodes.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
It's
Yeah.
that human element, you know.
Yeah.
Well, that's, when you said politics,
Yeah.
there's politics in everything.
Everybody can be bought.
Exactly.
There's a price.
Exactly. For everything.
Everyone has a
exactly.
price.
Sure.
Well, let's just let people know that, Terry, you have won several gold and platinum album awards for your work with Sinead O'Connor. I mean, talk about going to the others, I mean, Stop the Violence Movement, the Mo Money soundtrack, Luther Vandross, I love him. God, may he rest in peace. I saw him once in concert. It was like amazing.
Yes.
But then you worked with the Knicks and NBA, and I mean, this is so people trying to but I love it because you didn't stay in one lane, and it's kind of opened doors for you. So tell us how all that came together.
In regards to working with the NBA, again, working with First Priority Music, I think I was with First Priority Music for 10 years. And when I was with First Priority Music in New York, I sort of liken it to a sorority, because when I first got into the music industry and started working at the label, my co-students, if you want to say, my peers at the time were Will Smith, when he was with Jazzy Jeff and Fresh Prince.
Wow.
Puffy was working for free at Uptown Records. He was doing A&R. It just came from Howard. Latifah, I've known her as Dana since she was 16.
Wow.
And I'll tell you a story. We was actually supposed to manage Latifah, because the company, record label I was with also was a management company.
Okay.
And we were supposed to manage Latifah, and the last minute she decided to go with a gentleman by the name of Shakim, who was her childhood, friend in high school. To this day, they're still partners.
Wow, that's
Yeah,
great.
part of Flavor Unit, yeah.
Wow,
Yeah, so
wow.
a lot of the people that I work with, we just sort of came up together, and we were just, first of all, we were just glad we were getting paid. We couldn't
Right.
believe we were getting paid, first class flights and hotels, and we were just having a ball. So those were really like my co-students, if you want to say, like
Wow.
if I was in college, just learning the game.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's too cool.
That is amazing. And then, you helped to create awareness for the National Black Golfers Association. Now, can I say, so how'd you go from NBA to golf?
That was, really just, again, God to put me in the right place at the right time. I knew a gentleman by the name of Jerry, can't think of Jerry's last name, but he owned that organization, and he knew my background was PR. And he came to me and he said, hey, we're starting the Golfers Association, and love for you to do the PR. So for a couple of years, I was their publicist. It was real cool.
That is,
Yes.
and you've worked with Magic Johnson, Madonna, Paula Abdul, or you got to meet them and
I got
travel
yeah.
worldwide and
Yes,
meet them.
those I've got,
Cindy
yeah.
Lauper, that she must have been fun to meet.
Yes, yes.
I just love that. She's a real New Yorker.
Yes, she
You
is.
know,
Yes, she is.
Through and through.
But I think it's great where you can. You are a true example that don't despise small beginnings.
No, most definitely. Yes.
And being a kid from Brooklyn and Queens, getting to travel the world and meet such great people that some of us would only dream of meeting. What has that done to your outlook on what you'll do from now on?
It just gave me the belief that there's really nothing that I can't do, I should say. If somebody comes to me and says, hey, I need somebody to build a house, and I'd be like, okay, I'll build it for you. I have no idea how to do it, but I know I can learn how to do it. Now with the internet, I'll just go on YouTube and find a video
right.
of somebody building a
How
house.
to lay
or I'll
foundation.
hire somebody
Right.
to build a house. But, I just really believe that we all, not just me, and I always say to people, don't let me out, live you in this game. If I can do it, anybody can do it, but it's just a blessing to be able to come up with what if. I think it'd be cool
Right.
if, I wonder what it'd be like to jump out of an airplane. And then I went skydiving.
You
Nice.
did?
Yeah, oh yeah, yeah.
Oh, my
yeah,
goodness.
Yeah. So yeah, it's just about being, having a belief in yourself.
Well, and we know that you've written a couple of books, and before we talk about that, and before we take our last break, tell us, what was it like going to the White House in 2010
Oh wow.
to see President Obama sign the 20th anniversary of the Americans with Disabilities Act? What was that like?
Well, a couple of things I'll tell you. I kind of think and I would love to meet him again because I feel like I kind of messed up that opportunity, and I'll tell you that story. But the thing that surprised me about it was that, again, another what-if situation. I said, it'd be kind of cool to do something with the White House. And I found this guy named Kareem Dale, who was the head of the disability department for the White House. And I sent him this long email, got a hold of his email address, sent him this long, and I've never met him until that day, but I sent him a long email and basically said, hey, listen, my background is entertainment, I'm disabled, and if you have any type of event that you're working on, I would love to be a part of it and help put it together. And I never heard anything from them, just figured, okay, well, they're not responding. And maybe about 5 or 6 months later, I got an email saying that you're invited to the White House for the president re-signing of the Americans with Disabilities Act. And one thing that was very strange to me, that I thought they were going to do this whole big Secret Service background check on me. All they asked for my name and my social.
Wow.
And I was like, that's it? That's all I do,
Well, listen, that's all they need.
Right.
You don't know what they did on you.
Exactly.
Okay, you don't know what they did on you.
Exactly.
I promise you,
I
they
thought they were
did.
going to ask for driver's license or
They don't need
fingerprint.
to. They need your
Exactly.
name and social and
That's it.
I mean, based on this show that we've been watching called Hunted, that's all they need.
That's all they need.
That's all they need.
That's so
Well-
when I got there, I was so excited, and but I wanted my son, I have a 19-year-old son, and Jordan was probably 15, 16, and I really wanted him to experience it with me. I
Right,
should have really talked about having him come with me. But I was on the phone talking to him while the president was speaking. And I remember I was like, Jordan, okay, can you hear, can you listen? I'm gonna put you on speakerphone. And the president actually stopped and looked at me, and somebody said, shh. And I was like, okay, I gotta go. So I still remember that moment.
That's so funny.
And even afterwards, when he was like coming off the podium and shaking people's hand, I'm trying to hand him the phone. Like, say something to my son, change his life, say something monumental to him. And he was like, he was gone.
Aw. But that was great. Well,
Go ahead, try.
we're gonna take one last break, and then when we come back, I wanna talk about your books and maybe think about some tips that you can encourage people that wanna get into the industry in whichever capacity. So we'll be right back. You're listening to 108 Praise Radio, Voice in the Gospel, the AliShane Show.
Me. But I was on the phone talking to him while the president was speaking. And I remember I was like, Jordan, okay, can you hear, can you listen? I'm gonna put you on speakerphone. And the president actually stopped and looked at me, and somebody said, shh. And I was like, okay, I gotta go. So I still remember that moment.
That's so funny.
And even afterwards, when he was like coming off the podium and shaking people's hand, I'm trying to hand him the phone. Like, say something to my son, change his life, say something monumental to him. And he was like, he was gone.
Aw.
You know?
But that was great. Well,
Go ahead, try.
we're gonna take one last break, and then when we come back, I wanna talk about your books and maybe think about some tips that you can encourage people that wanna get into the industry in whichever capacity. So we'll be right back. You're listening to 108 Praise Radio, Voice in the Gospel, the AliShane Show.